Welcome back to every naval battle in history. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who restrained their desire to correct me misspelling siege on the title card of the last episode. We're getting deep now into the wars between the Umayyad Caliphate and the Eastern Roman Empire. As with so many good stories related to naval battles, it ends with the destruction for all time of Carthage in 698. In this part of the world, history both repeats and rhymes. Some background. From around 647, Arab forces were pushing along North Africa. For the armies that had come out of the Arabian Peninsula, the interior was a landscape that reminded them of home. Meanwhile, the Romans, having seen off an Arab siege of Constantinople in 678, got back to doing what they enjoyed the most, which was murdering and mutilating themselves. Since 610, the Romans had found their emperors in the Heraclian dynasty, which, to be fair, had crushed the Persians for all time, albeit only to pave the way for the far more terrifying rise of Islam. In this time, they had reformed the state from one which was recognisably ancient Roman into something new. Of particular interest to us had been the creation of the themes, or themata. The themes were essentially provinces structured to support an army, with the whole area under the administration of one general appointed by the emperor. In part, they were formed around the field armies already in place at the time of the reforms. It was the sort of expedient decision that worked for a time and then created problems. Once a general and his family have ruled the same patch of land for a few generations with the same now hereditary military elite, you've got yourself a kingdom with no strong desire to send all its tax revenues back to the capital. For the Eastern Romans, their own incredible endurance through the centuries often saw their clever solutions come back to bite them generations later. Of particular interest to us, in 680 the Carabisian theme was first mentioned in surviving records. The Carabissinoi take their name from the Greek for ship, Carabis, which incidentally is where caravel derives from. The Carabissinoi was the first dedicated naval theme and represented the Eastern Romans getting serious about maintaining a standing navy that could counter the new Arab threat at sea. It only took years of having Constantinople under siege to spur this innovation. Unlike the other themes, the Carabissinoi didn't own lands to support their operations, and there was also a central imperial fleet based out of Constantinople. But from the Black Sea to North Africa and all the Balkan and Italian coasts, the Carabissinoi were the Roman navy. In 685, Justinian II had taken the purple and did a lot of stupid things, like trying to arrest the Pope and putting chunks of Italy into rebellion. He also, more to his credit, tried to stop the big landholders of the empire from stealing all the land from the smaller farmers, on the basis that those farmers provided the manpower which defended the empire. And what happens to emperors who annoy powerful people by trying to do something for the small folk? They get dealt with. After ruling for 10 years, a chap called Leontius deposed Justinian in 695 and cut his nose off. There was a theory that mutilated people couldn't be emperor. Among the very many big mistakes Leontius would make, the biggest was not finishing the job and killing Justinian II. Having come to the throne through a military revolt, Leontius was not keen on keeping a lot of soldiers around and tried to reduce the activities of the army. In 696, the Umayyads launched a full-scale invasion of North Africa, and that was too rich a prize to give up. Hassan ibn al-Numan captured Carthage in 697 without much bloodshed after everyone in the city who could afford passage to Sicily had already evacuated with their money and what they could carry. Emperor Leontius raised a force of Goths, Sicilians and the Carabissinoi under a leader known as John the Patrician to retake the city. We have here an interesting case where the maritime power and the continental power have very different perspectives of what they value. For the Romans, seaports were the gates to the world. To the Arabs, the country stretching away from the sea was where the real value lay, and the ports were very annoying places where the Romans attacked them from. Hassan made sure a great chain was laid across the mouth of the harbour of Carthage, and figured that would assure the port was neutralised. The Carabissinoi had other ideas. Using special heavy ships with reinforced hulls, they broke the chain laid across the harbour mouth. Remember, a chain is famously only as strong as its weakest link. I'd quickly note that the art for this episode is a hallucination of Midjourney, and having asked for the galleys cutting the harbour chain, we appear to have galleys cutting the harbour walls. You get what you pay for, in this case $10 a month. The Arab garrison fled, and John the Patrician started retaking the surrounding countryside. Hassan very grumpily brought his army back to retake the city and laid siege. Both leaders wrote to their capitals asking for reinforcements. Despite the Arabs having to send their messages all the way to Damascus, their relief force managed to arrive before the Roman reinforcements even left Constantinople. Seeing the new armies arrive, the Romans evacuated their forces to Crete, where their leadership had a very important conversation. There was a feeling amongst the officers that if they returned in defeat to Constantinople, the Emperor Leontius would not take it well. There were very strong feelings about being mutilated as punishment, and the pro-mutilation camp had very thin support. John the Patrician was killed by his own forces, and one of the officers, Aspamar, led the fleet back to Constantinople where they deposed Leontius. Leontius had his nose cut off, and Aspamar ascended the throne as Tiberius III, the first naval commander to become emperor in the history of the Roman Empire. To round things out, in 705, Justinian II would retake the throne and have both Leontius and Tiberius III murdered and their bodies dumped in the sea. Amongst all this drama, it was noted that 855 years of Roman rule in North Africa, give or take the interruption of the Vandals, had come to an end, and this time they would not be coming back. Hassan ibn al-Numan would order Carthage destroyed for all time, again, before being deposed in 704, having fallen afoul of the Caliph's brother. It's almost as if weak systems of government are unhealthy for a polity. Strap in, folks, we've got lots more to cover as we take on every naval battle in history. Smash those like and subscribe buttons, ring that bell, you don't want to get left behind.